It's International Coaching Week, May 13th through 19th, and I'm celebrating that by interviewing some of my favorite coaches and people that I think have a lot to offer in the coaching space. The theme of International Coaching Week is all about the power and impact of coaching. And so I thought we could have this conversation with a few great coaches, and I can share that with everyone. So today I'm talking to Doug, who I met through a coaching group with Sarah Papp. Some of you may remember I interviewed Sarah during the International Women's Month series. And that's how I met Doug and several other great coaches. But I have been just really impressed with his demeanor and the way he asks questions. And so it was like, hey, this is someone I want to interview for this series. So I'll turn it over to you, Doug, to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and why you're a coach and how that shows up in your life.
Thanks so much, Leah. I've so appreciated getting to meet you and getting to know you, and honored to be one of your interviewees for this platform. Yeah, my name is Doug Wubben. I am what am I right now? I'm a few different things. I'm a nurse and I'm a coach, but I've been a lot of other things in the course of my life. I think I counted the other day, and I've had like 42 or so different jobs in the course of
Nice.
my life, or different endeavors. And I think that's what's led me to my focus of coaching, which is around transitions. So
Uh,
my path to coaching has been very circuitous, but I think kind of like a lot of us, it comes out of just feeling utterly frustrated with my life at different times. It's like I'm trying really hard and I'm doing all these things, and on I think I'm on my purpose, but it doesn't feel good, and
right.
it still doesn't feel good. Oh, and my body doesn't feel good, or and now I'm doing this thing again that I thought I would never do. So yeah, I've had a lifelong desire to self-explore and figure that stuff out, and
Right.
have been doing that in a myriad of ways. And yeah, and then coaching found me like 4 years ago, and I mean, to experience some coaching,
Mhm.
and the power of it, and then I was like, you know what, I think I could totally do this, and it's been totally true. So
I love
it's
it.
been it's a lovely journey, and
Yeah.
still growing.
Yeah.
I'm on a steep learning and growth curve with it, and I'm just loving every minute.
Yeah. I mean, it is always, that's one of the things I love about it. It always has this like, just when you're like, oh, I know how to, I did that. That worked really nicely with this client. Then you learn some new thing and you're like, oh, how am I going to incorporate this or what's going to happen? Or so it has, for those of us who have all this curiosity, which most coaches do, it has the ability to be that kind of journey where you're always learning something and honing a skill or yeah, which I love. So very cool.
Yeah,
So when you think about sort of what you specialize in or how like you're like who do you love to work with? When do you feel the most sort of jazzed and in flow with coaching? Maybe talk about that a little bit.
sure. Yeah, well, like this why am I a coach question is interesting. And the thing I came up with, the most succinct answer to that was it just lights me up. And
Yeah.
then when I notice, and that's how I know that I'm in flow when I'm in coaching. Um, when I leave a session feeling more energized than I went in.
Mm.
Like sometimes I describe to friends and family about like, oh yeah, I like had like 6 coaching calls today and it was great. And they're like, oh my gosh, that sounds so
It's
exhausting.
honoring, right?
And I'm like, if I end that day feeling exhausted, then I'm not in flow. I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's so uh enlivening to be able to go through those days and feel more energized. And so my perfect clients are those that just gets up leveled to
Yeah.
another state, right? Like that's not just me re-energizing me. Like there's uh, a container that gets created in a coaching conversation, and there's energy being brought and created by both people in that is how I experience it right now. And this is really new. Just over the last few months have I really been tapping into this, where uh, when that gets created and there's that flow, then yeah, it's energizing, and it energizes the conversation, and it energizes the client to be able to take on things that they thought that they didn't know they were going to be able to take on.
Yeah.
Um, And most people have been coming to me as of late. When I first got into this, I've got a background in nursing. I got a background in, well, a number of backgrounds, but one of my areas of focus in my life has been around caregiving, um, caring for people at the end of life. And that moved into my nursing career where I did a lot of goals of care training conversations. Worked in the cancer clinic for a while, had a lot of hard conversations with patients and families that were facing these end of life or just serious illness conversations. Got really good at doing that. So much so that I joined a national faculty to help teach others how to do that. And that was a real passion of mine, and helping keep people engaged in the healthcare realm and not get burned out in the process, I thought was going to be my focus. When I
Yeah.
came out of coach training like
Yeah.
4 years ago, I was like,
This
well,
is it.
clearly this is what I'm made for. This is me.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been it. I mean, it comes in. I'll say more about that in a second, but the focus really has been around transitions. People
Yeah.
read my bio, they're like, "You've done a lot of different things in your life," and they're like, "And I'm faced with having to do something different now, so maybe you know something about that." Uh,
I love-
and so the and people when transitions come up for people, it's an opportunity for them to say, "I don't want to do it the same way,"
I love
and it
that.
creates an opening.
Mhm.
And so the people that are really driving with me as of late are those that are like, okay, I've got this opportunity, or I'm forced into this transition, like I've just been fired or I'm being laid
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
or some crisis has happened. Something's created like this opening
Yeah.
where they're like, okay, I've got this opportunity or this crisis. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Um, all I know is I don't want to go back and do it the same way.
Right.
And,
I love that.
and that's go. I'm like, I love that when
Let
a
me
client.
in. Right.
Yeah, let's talk, because I've been there,
Yeah.
and most of my transitions have not been. It's funny, a lot of my transitions have been opportunities,
Yeah.
but I feel like they've been hoisted on me. Like I'm not
Here.
the type of person that like goes out and looks for the opportunity. I'm the type of
Yeah.
person who's like head down and working my butt off, and then this, hey, you should come do this thing, and I'm like, that scares the crap out of me. No way.
I love
And
that.
then it just keeps coming, and I was
Right.
like, okay, I guess that's what I'm going to go do next, and that kind of defines how a lot of my transitions have happened.
Yeah. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I think, I think there are people like a lot of us, we're just working, we got the hustle, we're doing whatever we're supposed to be doing. And then somebody says, hey, are you? And you're like, I don't know. Yes. Right. And so then that move can be so jarring, even if it's what you want. Right.
Mm,
And I think that's really interesting. Liz Gilbert, I went to see Liz Gilbert talk recently, and she talks about how each day is a lifetime. And so every morning
mm.
you're waking up with a new lifetime. And I have really thought a lot about that in the context of transitions and even end of life and all of those things. And so each day you wake up and are like, what are we going to do in this lifetime? Right. And just love that metaphor around, how we make choices and how we move ourselves forward.
Yeah, and how we treat ourselves
Yeah.
in the process. Like that's some days I wake up and I'm like, I think I'm a relationship coach. I was like, I never could thought I would say that, but the relationship is like the relationship with ourselves and the relationship to transitions, the relationship to the opportunity,
Yeah.
and relationship to other people, of course. But it's yeah, like I love that. Like what today is a lifetime. Who who what's my relationship to me as I go through that, as I go explore that.
Yeah, I love it. And one of the things she said was that sometimes someone will say, like, well, Liz, you said this one time, and that she'll say, oh, that was 100 Liz's ago.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
no idea what I meant 100 Liz's ago, right? And I was so I've been really taking that and saying, like, oh, transitions
Mm,
sometimes you move almost to a new version of yourself. You take a lot with you and a lot of and memories and all of that, but we change. We're different, you
well,
feel
and there's loss in that.
yeah,
There's a loss in that, and there's grieving to do in that. And that's where my like work around serious illness and goals of care conversation and grief work has been integrating into my coaching so seamlessly and surprisingly. When people are coming with the transition, like, oh, I've got this great opportunity, I'm going to move on, let's go. All I want to talk about is the new thing.
yeah,
And I'm always like, let's push pause.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you letting go of? There's a loss, even if it's something that you wanted to do. This
Yeah.
is something that it's an old version of myself that I'm losing. And and there are really empowering ways to move through grief that can really help propel you into the next thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that you're able to bring those things together because I do think there's so much. It feels like as I do more and more coaching, I feel like there's so much richness around like the language of birth and starting, but also the language of grief and dying or leaving behind, right? And they're so
Yeah.
interconnected and interwoven, and I think there's so much to be, kind of mapped out and picked apart in that space with people. So it's good to have a partner to do that with for sure as a coach. So,
Yeah, it's scary territory to
yeah,
be in, right? Most of us are pretty, and I'm no different, like, but I've had a lot more practice being in that uncomfortable space with people and seeing what happens when they can spend just a little bit of time. And I think one of the myths around all of that is people think if I dip my toe in there, I'm going to get trapped,
yeah.
or it's
Mhm.
going to take me over, or it's just going to feel just 100% awful. And none of those are true. None of those are true.
Yeah, we always
But it
kind of
does help to have a
afraid,
partner.
yeah, we're always kind of afraid that like if I start crying, I may never stop. Well,
Mm,
or if I start dealing with that thing, that feeling, that, whatever, I may never be able to get out of it. And it's like generally not true, right? But it's nice to have a partner that says, we'll come back out of there. So, yeah.
well, and have a partner that can say, who's the one doing the grieving right now? Is it
Yeah.
one of your saboteurs that's like beating you up in the process? Or is it your sage part of your brain? This is positive intelligence language I'm using now, but is it your sage part of the brain that's going into that grief process in an honoring way?
Yeah.
So I tell people the best way to accelerate the grief process is to focus on honoring what's
Mm,
been lost.
yeah. I love that. I love that. That's so great. I love that you can have been able to really weave together your background and all these things and that you're seeing that come together in coaching and feeling that energy and that kind of like you said that it's really lighting you up and giving you flow and all of that. So when you think about like coaching and the myths around coaching or the things that you wish people knew about coaching, what's something that you wish you could share with people?
It's funny. The first thing that comes to mind is something that I kind of wish was true about coaching, which is, can someone just please fix me and just tell me what to do?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like how I so often want to approach it. Leo, could you just tell me what to do? Like I'm so over myself. I'm so frustrated with this pattern, whatever, right? Um, so yeah, of course that's not true. I mean, a good coach anyway, is not going to prescribe or diagnose or tell you what to do or try to fix you. Like I think that's the biggest myth, is that there's anything that needs fixing.
Right. Right.
And um, that's one of my main coaching things that I remember from
Yeah.
coach training, right? Like we had our mottos, right? Like I'm I'm the window, not the light,
Yeah.
right? Like I am not the source of your uh, solution, or like and um, and there's nothing to fix.
Yeah.
Like you are already perfect, whole, beautiful, lovable, and when we can start to let a little bit of that in,
Yeah.
a lot of the suffering drops away.
Yeah. And I think it's similar to what we just said. I think sometimes for so many of us, when we think about letting a little of that belief in, we're afraid it'll overtake us. We're afraid we either won't be able to believe it or we'll believe it so much that it'll be scary, right? And so I think
Mm.
it's same kind of like, "Ooh, what if it's too big? What if believing this about myself is so freeing, right?" And it's like, excellent, welcome. It's so free.
Yeah, we can work with that too. Uh, yeah, it's scary for two reasons. One, like you said, it could be like, how big could this get? And
Yeah.
I've got a couple of clients right now that are like, this is really big. Like, I don't know how to manage all of this.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, this is like new territory. Like, yeah, let's talk about that. The other is, because what comes with that is compassion,
Yes.
right? Compassion for ourselves. And I don't know about you, but I have some people who are like, if I got too much compassion, then I'm going to get lazy.
Right. I need to beat
If I
myself
get,
up on a regular basis. Forget about my
oh my
clients.
God,
I struggle with that.
it's like
Right.
if I don't have someone with a whip, why would I
Yeah.
do anything?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a good myth to bust right
Yeah.
there.
Love it. I
Uh,
love that. I love that so much. And I'm just finding more and more that at the end of every sentence that I have when it comes to coaching is, we need you here. Don't go anywhere. Stay. Right? To
mm,
whoever it is I'm
mm,
talking to, don't give up. Don't go anywhere. Right? Stay with
mm,
us. Be here. Right? Because there's so much. People are so afraid sometimes to just stay. Right? And be
yeah.
in space with us. So yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Are you accepting clients, and what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Easiest way to get with me is my website, dougwubbencoaching.com.
Okay, awesome. And
And
everybody will see it right down here when you look at this video. Very cool.
wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting me pick your brain and talk to you about coaching.
I love talking to you, Leah. I do this anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so much.